one, we've seen an uptick of complaints
Survivor
about
queue
survivor
times.
queues lately. Can you address the longer survivor queues during nighttime?
Oh.
Yeah, oh man, Matt. So just so we're clear with everyone, matchmaking is like a deep love of mine. I have a lot of love and passion for matchmaking, so I will
Why is it
try
so bad?
not to talk too much or too long. Gab, please cut me off. Tell me if I'm rambling incoherently on the
Then
stream.
why is it
I will
so
shut up if
bad,
you tell me to.
Patrick?
So yeah, matchmaking throughout the day.
Patrick!
Matchmaking in general is really hard and super challenging. But when I say throughout the day, I mean day and night, not just when the sun is up, right? Uh, but throughout the day, the biggest limiting factor that we have isn't the system. It's not that the matchmaking system itself is like bad at putting people together at certain times of day.
Uh-oh.
Aren't the right is like bad at putting people together at certain times of day, but it's rather that there aren't the right players in the queue. And by that, what I mean is we see this, we have charts that we look at this throughout the day. The ratio of survivors to killers fluctuates. In a perfect world of rainbows and unicorns where we all have lollipops and everyone is happy, there are always 4 survivors in the queue for every killer who's in
But
the
it's
queue,
not just
right?
that, it's about rank and skill as well.
Constantly. That's not the case, though, right? Sometimes there's too many killers and not enough survivors. Sometimes there's too many survivors and not enough killers. And generally speaking, at nighttime in most regions, the number of killer players starts to drop off, and we just have a...
That's part of why playing at night is so good if you're playing as killer. You see me talk about that before on this channel. I recommend if you're a killer, play at night. And the reason I say that is there's going to be a lot more survivors on, and a lot of them less good. Because here's the real story, ladies and gentlemen. I believe Polyester said this too. The first time I watched this, I was actually watching Polyester's like little join party, because I don't like Twitch. Because I think like Twitch is really slow, but that's beside the point. Polyester was like, that's because all the killer players are grown up and they're going to bed because they got work the next day. And I'm like, fucking shit, Polly. When did you turn face all of a sudden? And all the kids and the babies are up playing Survivor. I'm like, ouch, Polly. Good shit, bro. Good shit, Polly. You earned a little rosy laugh, Polyester. You got me. You got me with that one. But yeah, he's right. The problem is a lot of these killer players, they're the ones that are going to bed, and we have jobs, and we're productive members of society. And the survivors, they're the losers that bitch they're wondering where their next check in the mail's coming from. I'm sorry, was that too political? I'll stop. Rosie is a moderate, by the way. But survivors are the people that bitch, and bitch, and it's very, very obvious. But I mean, they say, and this is one of those things where you gotta examine what you've experienced. Okay, from my experience as a killer, this is both true and false. Okay, they have acknowledged that in nighttime in most areas around the world, the number of killer players starts to drop. Okay, which what I'm assuming he means is that whenever a region hits nighttime, that specific region's killer player base drops off and there's less of them on. Okay, fine, makes sense. Okay, but I still think my own personal take on Dead by Daylight from playing as both killer and survivor is that killer queue times are always very, very good. If you play killer, no matter what time of day you play killer, you get in a game within 10 seconds. The only time I have problems in killer queues is when there's a new killer out. Those are the longest queues of the entire month because everybody's on. Everyone wants to see what they do. Those are the hardest queue times of the month from my experience. So again, no matter what time you're playing on, again, night is always better, but those queue times are always the longest when there's a new killer out. I do not believe, this is where I think they started spewing a bit of crap, I do not believe that the killer queue times are ever bad, except for that one portion of the month. Killer queue times are always very, very good because you are genuinely seeing less killer players on the game, okay? And to that I say, I wonder fucking why. I wonder why you see less killer players on than survivor players. I wonder why you see that. And I'll tell you why you see that, because I actually know. I know because no matter how much Scott Jun wants to run his mouth on his YouTube channel, and no matter how much Otofu wants to run his mouth, no matter how much Scorpions wants to run his mouth, no matter how much all of these fog whisperers and behavior fucking suck the tit from behavior, how much these people want to run their mouths, the average player is not falling for it. The average player looks at Scott Jun's Don't Say Gen Rush videos and laughs at it. The average player is leaving the game because the balance is so fundamentally screwed up that they're not taking it. They're not taking it. They're leaving. The average killer player is leaving the game. And that is just a 100% fact. Why the fuck do you think we're getting buffs every time a new competition game comes out? Remember when they fixed the God Loops? Resident Evil Resistance was just around the corner when they fixed those fucking God Loops. And it was like, the game had just released, actually. Monstrum 2, right around the corner. What happens? DS gets nerfed. I'm willing to bet if you were to go back to see when the Friday the 13th dropped out, you would have seen a massive killer buff take place then too. These weak killers only get changes when competition comes out. And that's just a straight fucking fact. Okay? So you're seeing, because the average player is not falling for the rhetoric and the fucking crap that is spewed out of the mouth of these content creators, because they're not even watching them. They're not even watching this shit. All these apologists for behavior, no one's fucking watching them, except for the survivor players and the killer players that have stuck around because for some reason that I do know, but I'm choosing not to tell you. Okay? So maybe the rank 8 killer that's losing every other game and goes, well, I just need to get better. Scott Jun's right. Most players are leaving and they're not even watching your videos, bro. That's why I found it really funny when I got harassed by fucking behavior apologists and white knights on my why Otofu and Ots Vara damaged the game with their content. Because everyone that would have agreed with me is not even watching the video. They left the game already. They left the game, okay? The results of that video, oh, you're just jealous. The results of that, they're leaving. They're gone. Everyone that would have agreed with me about the balance, they're gone. They're not even watching. They moved on to a game that's fair. And that's the real fucking facts, okay? And until we get core balance decisions, you will not see players. I guarantee when the DS change comes on, that's going to bring people back. The DS change is going to bring the biggest upswing in player base of the entire fucking year, regardless of any other chapter that comes out this year. The DS change, along with a killer, which, oh my god, if it's licensed, holy shit, you're going to see a huge increase in player base. It might be licensed so they can just say, look at that, guys. Chat, look how much players this chapter brought back in. It was the DS change, not your crappy killer that I'm sure is going to be low tier. Okay? But again, moving on, that's Rosie's rant of the day for you.
Plus of survivor players. So you can imagine we have 400 survivors waiting in the queue and no killers.
Yeah.
As soon as a killer joins the queue, the system is going, oh yeah, and pairing them up with more survivors and throwing them in. And then the actual limiting factor here is waiting for the next killer to queue up in that zone.
And as complete opposite, we often see when releases happen and people want to try the new killer.
Yeah.
The complete opposite. Oh my god, killer queues are so long. I'm spending 10 minutes in here.
I've never spent 10 minutes in a queue. Even when the new killer drops, it's never 10 minutes. That is an exaggeration. That solo survivor pros will go, wow, Not Queen has a point. I've never had a queue get to 10 minutes in my life, except for I think I had a survivor queue do it a few times. But a killer queue, never, no.
Well, that's also a matter of ratio.
Exactly, right? New killers, all sorts of things can throw off the ratio, right? We have events in and,
Oh yeah, events.
Oh
yeah. Me and all my boys were going, yo, you want to hop on that Lunar New Year event? Or how about Halloween, the Halloween event? Y'all guys want to hop on that Halloween event? You could get a serum that boosts you. Oh god, I rest my case there.
Survivors to play with their friends. Boom! Suddenly we have too many survivors on.
You always have too many survivors on. I see through you, bro.
Some events in the past as well.
Yeah, it's happened, right? So
Yeah, the good
I will
ones.
tell you is, like, this is something that we are constantly monitoring, something we're constantly looking into, figuring out ways to improve the system. Some are big improvements, some are small improvements. We try to have that best bang for the buck, find the cheap little things that we can get out nice and quick for you guys.
Emphasis on cheap.
The main thing is to look for ways to
Emphasis
merge
on cheap
matchmaking
there,
tools
bruh.
together instead of separating them out. There's a lot of really interesting.
These guys like their money.
cool
They like their
background
money.
tools
They got
done
their
that's
bills to
very
pay, bruh.
technical, and I won't bore
Got
you
that
all with
bills
it
to
right now,
China.
But these are the sorts of things that we're doing because the more people we can get into a matchmaking pool, the less y'all have to wait to find matches.
And a big part of that is buffing killer, Patrick.
All right, we have another matchmaking question. So, with the upcoming skill-based matchmaking system,
Okay.
can you give more information on how the ratings will be determined? Example,
Oh boy.
counts
18. Okay, we're doing good.
or how